Good afternoon, YouTubers. I thought I would share this really fun piece that I worked on for a client. I can't really give any details right now about what the project is or what it's for, but I definitely wanted to share my process of how I created this one. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave them down in the comment box. I'd love to answer any questions about this or my process or my work. I'm using a really large brush to lay down the foundation of the background, and you'll see that I am applying wet on wet and using a really large brush. I first saturate the paper with water and then I lay the color in. The next step in the process of creating this piece was to lay down some other colors, and you'll see that I pat some of the excess water and moisture off of the piece because it gives kind of a nice texture. I really like using the paper towel to do this. Then from there I use a hair dryer to go in and dry the entire piece before I start layering more colors onto the paper. You'll see that there are probably areas where I kind of overwork the paper a little bit. That's okay in this piece because I'm actually going to scan this in and make it into a digital illustration. So I'm not too concerned with how the paper pulls up in certain areas because I know I'm going to fix that in Photoshop later. However, if you're a little bit more worried because this is a final piece, you might want to make sure that you control the amount of water that you lay down on your painting as you're working, because this can damage the paper and it can go through to the other side. Another really important step in this process that I wanted to mention is taping down your paper. If you're not using a watercolor block, then you definitely want to tape down the corners of your paper because the amount of water that I'm using in this piece really does make the paper ripple quickly, especially when you go over it with a hairdryer and dry each layer. You want to make sure that the corners are securely taped to the desk. In this final part, I show how I lay in the white sparkly areas, and it's basically white gouache that I have on a brush tip, and I'm spraying it onto the piece in the areas that I feel need the accents with the stars. I kind of cover the bottom because I don't want it to go all over. It's kind of a messy technique. But I really like the freedom of how it disperses the stars. And then I go back in with, a fine point brush and add in a few areas that I want to be a little bit more accented. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in next week's video.